Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to episode number 61 of Let's Go Racing with David Starr. Tyler Jones here with you. So glad to have you with us. Coming up on today's show, we are going to be joined by one of the newest members of the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series. Brad Perez is here, as we will hear from Brad about his debut in the Truck Series over the weekend at COTA. Later on, we will have our news and notes segment with the latest headlines happening in motorsports. And then we will wrap up the show with our Ask David segment as well. All that and more coming up in just a few moments. But before we get to any of that, our show is presented by our new sponsor, TicketSmarter. TicketSmarter came on board as the primary sponsor this year on David's '08 Ford Mustang. And we want to tell you a little bit about what they do. TicketSmarter is a national ticket resale marketplace with tickets to over 125,000 live events, including NASCAR and other forms of motorsports. Fans can get tickets to every NASCAR Cup, Xfinity, and Camping World Truck Series race throughout the season. Visit TicketSmarter.com for more information. That is TicketSmarter.com. David Starr is here with us right now. David, good to hear from you. A fascinating weekend in COTA there in Austin. The fans showed up, good turnout and good racing action, with Ross Chastain getting his first win in the Cup Series and also the first win for Team Trackhouse with Justin Marks and Pitbull.
Man, what an incredible weekend! All the way from starting from Thursday all the way to Sunday. The weather was perfect, beautiful, sunny skies, clear skies, beautiful Texas weather. And man, Tyler, the racing did not disappoint. I don't care if it was a Camping World Truck Series, the Xfinity race, or the Cup Series. All three NASCAR races were just phenomenal. The fans got their money's worth. And coming back from last year, the inaugural race there at COTA, when, man, we dealt with a bunch of weather, a bunch of rain, there were fans everywhere. It was neat to see the fans back in the stands and back at the Austin road course. But, man, the racing was phenomenal. And, man, Ross Chastain, God, we knew he was a great race car driver, but man, I would tell you, after watching his performance this weekend, he's, to me, he's one of the best out there. I mean, when you can beat AJ Allmendinger, Kyle Busch, Chase Elliott, all those, just on and on and on, all the Cup guys that we know are phenomenal on these road courses. And Ross can step in there with a sophomore new Cup team with the next gen car and, man, dominate like he did. It was such a phenomenal race, not only in the Cup Series, but the Xfinity Series as well. What a great weekend.
Yeah, AJ Allmendinger getting it done on the Xfinity side. Truck race was exciting as well. And Dominic Aragon of the Racing Experts.com joins us as well. Dom, good to have you back after a couple of weeks for you on the road, as you've been traveling the country, enjoying a little spring break. But nonetheless, I know that you've been enjoying the great NASCAR action we've seen over the last few weeks. 5 different winners in the first 5 races of the Cup schedule.
Oh, sure thing. It was awesome to be out there at Atlanta. We took a little spring break detour, went to Lynchburg, Tennessee, got to see the distillery. So we kind of copied you on that, Tyler. We saw Graceland, and yeah, definitely a lot of fun traveling the country the last few weeks. But yeah, a lot of great NASCAR action packed in all 3 of the top touring series. And yeah, this weekend at COTA was certainly no exception to that.
Yeah, for sure. David, let's start there before we bring in Brad, just real quick, of Ross Chastain getting it done and getting that win for Team Trackhouse there. The progress for both Ross and Team Trackhouse. Here's a team you mentioned, just their second year in the sport, and they took some big steps buying the charters from Ganassi, but Ross Chastain has been running in the top 5, it seems, every single week, and it was only a matter of time before he was able to close the door and get that win. And I'm amazed, too, when you look at his career, Ross Chastain, whether it was his days in the Truck Series or the Xfinity Series or early on in his Cup days, it always felt like he was playing behind the 8 ball a bit, that he wasn't necessarily always in the best situation. And now we're seeing Ross finally compete on an even playing field, and he's showing how good he is.
Yeah, it's really refreshing to see it. A kid that worked his tail off, great short track racer, gets an opportunity in the Truck Series, takes advantage of it, steps into some good equipment. Not too many years ago with Alnice Motorsports, almost wins the championship. I think he lost it by 1 point. Get an opportunity to come up to the Xfinity Series, drive for a team that's underfunded, and really showcase his talent with that team on the Xfinity side. I mean, he was always a threat every week. I don't think he won any races, but you could see how talented he was as a race car driver because of how that car finished in the past and where he was finishing races with it. And then to see him get an opportunity on the Cup side with Trackhouse. They hired him because they thought he was phenomenal, and he showed us how phenomenal he is. It's refreshing for a kid or somebody that has heart and desire and passion, and
didn't bring any funding to that car.
No, and can drive the wheels off a race car, and to get the opportunity. And like you were saying, Tyler, Justin Marks, Trackhouse, Pitbull, what they've done in their second year as a new team in the NASCAR Cup Series is phenomenal. But, you look at Daniel Suarez. I remember last year towards the end of the year, second part of the season, you could see Daniel Suarez. They were making some big strides, and I was watching him, and man, he just kept clicking off those top tens. He was very competitive. And then we have a car change, a whole redesign of a race car, the next gen car. We start the 2022 season, and it seemed like Daniel Suarez and Ross Chastain, if anybody, what's the big surprise, the big story to date in the Cup Series is Trackhouse with those two drivers, man. They're really consistent. You look at the race on Sunday, which Ross Chastain drove his number one car into victory lane. But you look at the first stage, Daniel Suarez had him covered, big time had him covered. And I don't really know, I can't tell you, we were there, we were watching the race. The race was exciting, but I can't tell you what took place to take him out of the lead and change the way his race turned out. But I know that Daniel Suarez's car was phenomenal. And Ross Chastain was up there in the top five, I believe, as Daniel was leading. But that second stage, man, it was all Ross Chastain, and just amazing what that team has done. And just their second year of being in the business and being a team, it's phenomenal, And it has everybody's attention, whether you're a team owner, a sponsor, a driver. I think Trackhouse is a team that's going to be a force to be reckoned with in this run for the championship this year. What's y'all's thoughts on that, Tyler?
Yeah, I mean, I remember when Pitbull signed on board to be, the co-owner of that team. He said, we're not here just to come win in this sport. We're here to change the culture. And I think that you're seeing that culture is being changed. They're doing it their way, and it's different than everything else that we've seen. It's fascinating for sure. Dom, on COTA, before we bring in Brad real quick, to me, like, this was the first real race weekend for COTA, right? David mentioned all the rain that happened last year, and it just didn't feel right. Now, this year, we know about the deal with SMI. They rent the track to be able to use it and such, and have a partnership going. They did announce that there'll be tickets available for next year. They intend to come back next year. But with the way that everybody talked about it, I know it's a challenging racetrack, but as exciting as it was and the turnout that was out there, there's no reason why COTA shouldn't be on the schedule for a long time. I was very impressed with that track. It's not even built for stock cars. It's built for F1 race cars, and yet these guys put on a show.
Oh, they put on one heck of a show. You guys got to see it in person. I hope to get out there someday soon. But, yeah, I think the racing has been awesome. COTA was a great race this past weekend, and you said it best, Tyler, with no rain, and we got to actually see a great race to the end, and even some overtime and some great passes and we have an instant classic finish now with what happened on Sunday. Yes, great racing, and I think it's just only going to hype up the event for next year.
Yeah, Dominic, before we bring in Brad, give us the formal introduction and tell us about it.
Yeah, Brad, I've known Brad now about 7, 8 years, might even be longer. He might know more, but he and I actually used to sim race against each other. And we met at Homestead for the first time in the flesh in 2015 during the championship race weekend. We've stayed in touch over the years, but Brad has been working towards his career in motorsports. He's worked with several teams in the NASCAR garage area. He got to make his ARCA series debut last year. Before that, he was racing spec Miatas and running different places around the country in the Hoosier Tour, and made his truck series debut this past weekend for the Room Brothers at COTA. Brad, so awesome to have you on the show with us this week.
Oh, thanks for having me, guys. It's a lot of fun to be here, and I know I've been meaning to come on here, so I'm glad in this circumstance I've been able to come here and get to chat with you guys.
Oh, absolutely. How has it been for you the last few days? I mean, of course, you ran the race on Saturday, and I'm sure you've had a lot of people reaching out to you. What's that reception been like?
Oh, it's been a lot. Definitely, it's probably the most my phone has exploded in ever. You know, I wish I had this many people texting me about my Miata racing, because I feel like I would have done that for longer. Just a lot of hard work went into it. The week before the race, I mean, even from when the announcement started, I was at the shop pretty much like all day, all night. So I didn't really get a chance to kind of like relish in it until like that day. And, you know, like the media coverage and like Michael Waltrip and Jamie Little coming up. And I was like, well, what are y'all doing? Like this is kind of a weird situation that they'd be even talking to me. So definitely a different perspective coming to the racetrack as a NASCAR person. I guess I've always been a crew member, but it's hard to see myself as a driver sometimes. But that
Hey,
was
Brad,
definitely.
let me correct you real quick. As a NASCAR race car driver, there you go, buddy. There you
Yeah.
go. Not a NASCAR member, a NASCAR race car driver. There you go.
Yeah, that's true. That's true, David. I guess I could say that now.
Welcome to the fraternity.
Going to Martinsville as a crew member, but I guess I can call myself a race car driver now. It says
Hey,
it on my hard
Brad,
card.
you've run one more race than Dominic and I have.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, it was awesome, man. Everything leading up to it and the race itself, it was a great experience.
Well, we'll take us back to the end, Brad. We know you hail from Hollywood, Florida, South Florida. You know, Homestead Miami Speedway is your home track. Where did it all start for you? Do you have family involved in racing? What inspired you to get involved in motorsports in the first place?
So my family was not a racing family. I actually got into it because my dad worked in construction. He was he oversaw a lot of construction sites. So they used a lot of DuPont materials. So because of that, I got a poster of Jeff Gordon's DuPont car. And I was like, man, this is pretty cool. Like, this is real. And then my dad's like, yeah, it's real. Like, you know, like watch it on TV. And then watched a couple races on TV. And then I was like, man, this is pretty cool. So I got into racing. My dad took me to the go-kart track and I tried it out. And yeah, I fell in love with it. Unfortunately, in 2005, 2006, my parents kind of went through tough times financially. So we weren't able to race. But with that, you know, I did a bunch of other stuff, but I became a bigger fan as time went on. And that's kind of where I met you. You know, I met you sim racing because the only way I had like a taste of what it was like to do it is to do it on the internet. And, you know, I still didn't give up on it. I figured when I got older, I could try to give it a shot myself with my money and my time, my resources, whatever I could do. And, you know, somehow I'm here now. So.
Well, man, what a great story, Brad. It just goes to show you, if there's a will, there's a way. You have a lot of passion, you have a lot of heart, and it's always great to hear somebody's story, where that inspiration came from, and man, to hear where it came from and see what you just done this past weekend. And I don't even know if people really realize what you did, because what you did was extraordinary, because you had to race your way into the race, and you did that. You qualified your way into that race, that truck race. And I think there was 3 or 4 trucks that went home, and you made it. That says something about your ability, and to hear a real story, how your parents hit tough times like a lot of people have, over the years and through recessions and stuff like that, but you never gave up on your dream. And it's cool to hear how you met Dominic and the iRacing stuff, and the iRacing kept you sharp and kept you in the game. And I always wondered, the iRacing is so popular, and during the pandemic, with all the iRacing on television to entertain the NASCAR fans and all the other people that were watching it, I really thought I wasn't a participant. I didn't drive them because I've really never been an iRacer. You know what I mean? I think I've done it one time, and I can tell you the one time I've done it, you know what I mean? That's not for me because it's hard, but it's cool to hear your story because it lets other people know, other racers know that may have a similar story that, hey, man, look at Brad. Brad has got through racing his first NASCAR Camping World Truck Series, professional race car driver in the NASCAR ranks. That's making it as a professional. That's getting to the top levels, and to do it with your experience of being an iRacing is really inspiring to a lot of other people out there that may have similar stories. You know what I mean? So, man, congratulations to you, and man, heck of a job for making the race, and I'm excited to see what the future holds for Brad. You know what I mean?
Oh, thank you, David.
But that's pretty cool. Who the 43 truck? Who owns it?
Josh Rayum. Yeah, he does everything.
What a great guy. Josh Rayum is a great friend of mine, and man, it's exciting for him to give a young man like yourself an opportunity. And I hope there's several more to come for you. And I've learned a little bit about you, but tell everybody what you do when you're not racing, when you're not being a NASCAR race car driver, what your other job is.
So my history in the garage kind of started in 2018. Started working for Rackley WAR Racing when they had their Xfinity program. Helped out a little bit, and then ended up being introduced to Brian Berry. You're familiar with him, and working for JD Motorsports. Yeah, great guy. I mean, I worked with him at JD Motorsports from like late 18 all the way to 2019, and ended up working for Tommy Joe Martin's Motorsports. So I was on the 44 car for quite a bit, and then ended up working for Rackley. So right now I'm the tire specialist on the 25 truck, Rackley WAR, and that's kind of my part-time thing. It's tough to work at the shop, all day and all night when you really want to race. Obviously it would make sense if you were, in a driving position, but in my position, I needed time to help get sponsorship and be able to do the small things that you need to do as an aspiring driver to be able to put yourself in a position that you can do it. So I decided to do some just track work, traveling stuff, and then ended up picking up a job at the BMW Performance Center in South Carolina, thanks to a buddy who also used to race in NASCAR, James Bickford. And he helped out and got me that job, and I'm grateful for it because that allows me to take off the time. They encourage us to race. They want us. They're like, hey, if you race, take off work. You could do it. And, that's the push that I need, because being able to take time off work and keeping a steady paycheck while also being in a place where they facilitate you. Like, part of our job every day is to give those clients a hot lap at the end of the day. And you got to be sharp. I mean, there is no messing up. We sometimes have tandem drifting, and it's just being in high pressure situations. Or even though I'm not racing, I'm still having to drive just about every day and drive it at a pretty high level. So two things that kind of help each other, and I'm really glad I get to do that now.
So Brad, tell me this: what's a typical week look like for you if you're doing the racing school and then also at the racetrack yourself, whether you're working on the crew or driving the race car? I mean, do you have any time to breathe and rest a bit? I mean, that sounds like a lot on your plate, man.
I'm totally being honest with you. I moved to North Carolina in 2019, and I didn't do it to mess around. I did it because this is what I want to do. Like, I could have stayed home in Florida and went to the club every Saturday night and
not that there's anything wrong with that.
I know, but I'm 25 now, and you see kids like Ty Gibbs and all those young guys that I watched the broadcast the other day, and I see like at least 5 to 7 23-year-olds that have more than 50 starts in the truck series, and I'm 25 and I had my first. I don't have much time when it comes to this, and you got to go full force, because in this industry, if you if you think you can take a break, I mean, somebody else is going to step in your place with either more money or more talent, and there you are. So, you know, I got to work pretty hard for this, and I don't care how hard I work for it. I just want to do it. So if that's what I have to do, then I'll do it. So,
Hey, Brad, let me give you just a little bit of advice. Don't worry about what these other young kids are doing. You just focus on Brad. You know what I mean? I didn't make it as a professional race car driver. I was 28 years old, and man, all I focused on and worried about was just how I was going to get there. You know, trying to create an opportunity, win the races I could win with the opportunities that people were giving me. You know, was there a lot younger, better race car drivers? Absolutely they were. But man, I just focused on me and what my goal was and trying to achieve that, you know what I mean? So yes, there's probably a lot more younger people out there that are racing who have so many more starts than you do now. But man, you're a NASCAR race car driver now, and we can't change what our age is, but you just keep marching forward. Don't worry about age. You just go after it, man. Keep digging. Don't let that, you know, deter you or anything. You just keep digging forward like you're doing. You're doing a great job at it. And I wanted to say, you were talking earlier, I caught something you said. I was talking to another race car driver this past weekend that works in the race shop. And, you know, we all grow up, I did, and a lot of the racers do grow up building their race cars, fabricating, building engines, and putting our transmission together, doing a rig and pinion and a rear end, you know, just working on our race car. Everybody has a story. But, you know, you don't hear a lot of the race car drivers that you compete against that work in the race shop. And here's why. Because, you know, I used to, when I raced for a long time before I was just a hired race car driver. I didn't have to worry about going out, getting funding, getting sponsors, making sure our sponsors were getting their value at the racetrack, but away from the racetrack as well. I didn't have to worry about that. But the industry changed, okay? And when it changed, that required for me and you to go out. If our parents aren't wealthy, you know, we don't come from money, and our parents, our grandparents can't write a check and support our racing, then we got to figure out how we're going to do this. And we got to go out and we got to find funding and create value. And working in a race shop all day long on race cars, that's taking time away from making phone calls, going to meetings. And if we do have a sponsor, making sure we're doing stuff away from the racetrack for our sponsors, you know, so that the industry change, you know. And sometimes, like you were saying, you can get caught up in working in the race shop and working for a team because you got to make a paycheck and make a living. But, you know, but sometimes you can get caught up in that, and which there's nothing wrong with it. But man, that's not the path you want to go if you got aspirations of being a full-time NASCAR race car driver, because we got to go out and find money. So I respect what you said and what you're doing. And, you know, having the job at the BM plant, being an instructor, you're meeting people, you're out there, you're not working full-time at a race shop. And that's a great thing, just because it gives you time to go out and try to find more funding, get more partners. Partners mean sponsors. So Brad can get back on the racetrack and race full time in the NASCAR, you know, Camping Truck Series. So kind of interesting to hear you talk about that earlier.
Yeah, it's a balance that I've had to learn. Like, it's something that, like, I kind of wish there was a book written for you about it, but you kind of just have to figure it out and learn from, I mean, people like yourself and a lot of the other drivers who I had worked for, and really just learn how to manage all that and just kind of figure it out. So, you know, still work in progress, you know, things keep changing, and
Sure.
I'm grateful for the position that I'm in right now. So,
you know, there's an old saying that I think goes back to exactly what you guys are talking about. You know, when Brad is saying, you know, that, hey, there's these young guys coming up and he's trying to keep pace and such, do his own thing. Don't worry about the mules, just load the wagon.
Absolutely.
yeah, you're right about that. Yeah.
And hey, Brad, you loaded the wagon this week, buddy. And hey, no doubt about it, man. What you did this weekend, you should be proud of yourself, driving for a respectful truck team. And man, you need to capitalize on that, and you need to be thanking your sponsors and calling new ones and get back on the racetrack real soon with Josh. You know what I mean? So you got a taste of it, like you said. You had Jamie Little and Michael Waltrip down there talking to you, and you're like, man, this is nuts. You know what I mean? But it's real.
Yeah.
A kid from Hollywood, Florida, that was a high racer. Now he's big time. You know what I mean? And you need to capitalize on that. And I'm excited for you. You're an inspiration, a breath of fresh air. And this sounds like, man, you got a lot of want to, and that's what it takes. And all three of us can't wait to see what your future looks like. And I think it's going to be big.
Oh, thank you, sir.
Well, Brad, I hear that you have the nickname Bread. How did you get that?
So that's a funny story. It's definitely a story about where I'm from. And my name is Brad Perez. So I have a non-Hispanic first name and a Hispanic last name. And I grew up in a predominantly Hispanic area. I went to a predominantly Hispanic high school. So kind of English was like a second language at the high school that I went to. And obviously took a lot of Spanish classes and honor Spanish. And I would have a lot of teachers that would just butcher my name. Like full name was Brad Lee. So they would say Brenly or Blunley, or they just would not spell it correctly or say it correctly. And, I felt bad. So I was like, all right, I'm tired of it being a joke. Let me figure something out. So let me shorten it. So I'm going to go 4 letters, Brad. Everybody knows who Brad Pitt is. It doesn't matter where you're from. Everybody knows who that is. So I tried saying my name was Brad at the food truck one day, and got my order back, and they yelled out to the crowd, "Bread." And I said, you know what? That's my name. Changed my Twitter name that day in high school, and I have not changed it since.
So he's the bread man. I like it.
He earned the bread this week in Dakota.
Call me what you want to call me, but call me a NASCAR Camping World Truck Series race car driver.
You should be a motivational speaker, David.
Well, hey, man,
He is.
hey, you know what I mean? It's, hey, you did something you've been wanting to do for a long time, man. And it's a big deal, and it's like what you got to do this past weekend is something special. You tell me how many NASCAR race car drivers there are in the world. You have an idea?
Probably less than 100.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're right on. I think there's 36 in the Camping World Truck Series. There's 38 in the NASCAR Xfinity Series, and I believe there's 40. Am I right, guys? Mm-hmm. In the Cup Series. So you know what I mean? Just right over 100, really. You know what I mean? And you're one of them, man. You was one of them this past weekend in the world, man. You know what I mean? And I know I have a lot of friends who short track racers around the country that would love to step off out of their short track roots and drive a NASCAR Xfinity car, Cup car, or truck anywhere in the United States. You know what I mean? And you just did it. So it's really something special. So I'm not your motivator speak. I'm not trying to be a motivator to you. I just, want you to know what you did this past weekend was a really big deal, and you already know that.
Yeah, I just try to put it in perspective. I don't want to try to bite off a piece and say, yeah, whatever. Cause there's a lot of work to be done still. And I want to just keep my head down and make sure that I'm doing all the right things,
So Brad, usually on this show, we're talking about, drivers and their experiences they've had with David and such, but you and Dominic have raced against each other. I mean, this guy, this goofy looking guy over here, tell me about you guys knowing each other and what that's been like and such.
So I'm pretty sure Dominic can tell you too, but we used to be in a league called FTF. This is before FTF was on iRacing. This is when FTF was on a game called NASCAR Racing 2003 season. Most people know it as like the game that Dale Jr. met TJ Majors on back then, and same thing how he met Ryan or Martin Truex Jr. And me and him raced in that game and ran a pretty competitive league. I mean, we had people going home. Like we had iRacing or not NR races where like you would have to qualify in on speed, and there was like 47 of them showing up every week. So it's funny. I had kind of experience doing that type of thing online, that pressure. So it's funny. That's how I met Dominic, and we ran up other types of leagues in that game. And that experience, honestly, is obviously it's not real car racing experience, but it definitely is like racecraft and like, planning a race and, figuring out strategy, and you having to do that yourself. So that was fun to do it with Dominic back in the day when we were kids.
Yeah, we did a lot of that FTF, I think even as recent as maybe 2018. And I got to say, that was probably the most competitive online racing league I have ever raced in to this day. And Brad, I think you and I raced at UNSR, right? Ultimate National Sim Racing.
Yep, UNSR.
League. And he runs Kart Chaser now down there in South Florida. But yeah, we ran there, I think even maybe as early as 2012, 2013. So Brad and I definitely go back a long way. And I always joke that, we've had some of these other guys on the show, like we've had Justin Malillo on, and man, you always knew if Justin was racing, okay, you're not going to be winning. It's going to be Justin.
Yeah, he was
and
fast.
I remember like most of the time I was just happy to be running at the end, and got more competitive as time went on. But yeah, I definitely remember Brad beat me more often than not.
I put some time into that.
Brad, let me ask you about your iRacing. Do you think, did you use the iRacing to really understand and learn the Dakota track? I mean, there's a lot of reference points and a lot of breaking points and shifting. I mean, would you say that iRacing really helped you learn that racetrack?
So I feel like that's definitely something that has shifted over my career of just driving in real life and then driving in the game. First, you have those game habits, like your hands being smooth in the game. You don't want to have smooth hands in the game. And I've had to learn to have smoother hands. And going to somewhere like COTA, after doing the ARCA start, I kind of figured out, the game isn't as super realistic as real life. But to David's point, you can use the reference points from the track in real life and it's the same. Obviously your braking points will probably change by, I would say, 200, 300 feet, depending on the track, and tires are different. But on iRacing, if you let's say we run like a 411 gear, for instance, you go on the iRacing setup and put a 411 gear in there, your shift points will be the same in the sim as they will be in real life. And just the only thing you have to figure out in real life is, with track condition, the style of brakes you had in your truck, or the type of cooling, the tires, all that plays an effect more than the game does, where you'd have to figure out more so how to go about the track. But it definitely gets you close. Like it definitely makes it so I don't have to worry where the track is when I get there. But instead I'm just fine tuning small little things.
Yeah. So one more question, Brad, before we move on to our news and notes segment. You had this start at COTA. I know you'd like to get in the race car more and such. What's kind of the rest of the year look like? You're going to try to run more trucks, some ARCA. What would you like to do if you can get back in a race car here in 2022?
Well, the goal that I set for myself in the beginning of the season is I want to run every single road course race, every single one. I don't care what series it is. Obviously cost being considerate. I don't think ARCA is a very good, proposition for value. Like, I think you can race an ARCA race like for a mid-pack team for the same price that you can run an Xfinity. If you want to win in ARCA, you're going to win same price you're going to spend to try to win in trucks. So it's more like kind of picking your poison and figuring out what's the best deal that you can get as far as what your partners can provide, or what you can provide to your partners to be able to put yourself in a good position. But I still think, Portland is an option. I still want to try to run the Xfinity race at Portland. I don't know what's open right now. I've been trying to call people and I don't know exactly for sure, but definitely trucks at Sonoma. Now that I've had this relationship with Josh, I feel like we could possibly do that race depending on funding, and the sponsors are pretty happy, so maybe that might happen again. And then obviously Mid-Ohio to complete the trifecta of road courses for trucks. But definitely want to hop in. Portland will definitely be one where, since nobody has been there before, I'm not going to be totally out to lunch. So we all kind of have an even playing field of experience there. So we'll see. I mean, I'm trying to do as much as I can, but I'm trying my best.
Sure. And Brad, the other thing too, one of my favorite questions to ask drivers, whether it's been a good race or whatever the race weekend might be, whether it's been eventful, is when they look back on it, what they're going to remember most. And I'm curious for you, when you look back on this COTA weekend, say 40, 50, 60 years from now, you're on the rocking chair thinking about it, telling your grandkids about it. What are you going to remember most about COTA in that race weekend in your truck debut?
Oh man, there's a lot of things, but I'm as a racer, the one thing that I'm going to remember is coming to the green for the last green white checkered. I told myself before we went to the green, that first green white checkered, I kind of held back because I was like, man, I feel like they're just going to wreck each other up there. And then after that, after a couple people took each other out, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go as hard as I can, and I'm going to try, consciously run really fast. I'm going to go as hard as I can in the braking, consciously, not making a mistake, but I'm going to try to go 10 tenths, my 100%, and see what I can do. And being able to pass like 3 or 4 trucks that lap, and that kind of set to me. I'm like, you know what? Like, damn kid, you could do this. So that it hit me then, and I was like, man, that's something I'll remember for sure. Passing a couple trucks like on that green white checkered, like on merit. Sorry Spencer Boyd for spinning you out on the last lap. Did not mean that for sure, but for every other pass that I made, definitely that's something that I'll remember forever.
So Brad, did you spin Spencer Boyd out?
I did. So funny story about that. So in my off time at BMW before I got the Ram deal, I'm pretty tight with the Young's Motorsports guys. And talk about Pickle, Tyler, Chaconas, all those guys. So I would go over to their shop just to, hang out. And sometimes I would help on the trucks, if they needed a hand and I actually helped put Spencer's truck together for Vegas. And so when on the last lap, I made a mistake. I thought I was inside on him. I was at his door, but I kind of went in a little too hard and it stepped out from underneath me. And when I tried saving it, I hit him and I spun him. And today I actually I bought them donuts. I went into the shop and I actually tore down his truck. So they had it on stands and I felt bad. So I decided they know me and I wouldn't do that on purpose. So Spencer was mad though.
You mean to tell me that's awesome. You tell me that you spun Spencer Boyd out and you feel so bad about it that you went over there this morning with donuts and coffee and helped take their truck apart.
Yeah.
That's a good guy right there. Yeah.
Hey, I don't get access to the KBM shop floor. I don't get access to the GMS shop floor, but I know those guys. So I'll be a nice guy and I'll help them out.
That's great.
Dude, that's an awesome story, man. That's pretty cool. What'd Spencer tell you?
Man, on the cool down lap, he showed me how not happy he was. and I get it. I mean, we got we pulled into where the haulers were at and he was screaming at me and I was like, dude, I'm sorry. Like I couldn't tell him anything more than it was my fault, man. I'm sorry. Yeah. I ended up seeing him on the plane on Sunday and I didn't make eye contact. So I was like, dude, I'm gonna let you chill out and then I'll text you on Monday. And he ended up texting me saying, hey man, like no harm, man. I know you were trying all you could and we're cool right now, but
that's good.
That's my first altercation.
One thing you'll learn, I think every race car driver has made that mistake. And I believe Spencer Boyd's probably made that mistake more than once.
Yeah.
And I don't think he went to their race shop and helped them take their race car apart either.
It wasn't bringing them donuts and coffee.
No, not at all.
Gosh, that's good. Before we get to our news and notes segment, real quick, we want to take time to tell you about our friends at TicketSmarter. TicketSmarter is the official ticket resale marketplace of Worldwide Technology Raceway, where David won in 2004, driving for Spears Motorsports. They'll also be the presenting sponsor of the Cup race at Worldwide Technology Raceway in June. Fans can also get tickets to any type of event, including sports, concerts, and theater productions. We know Dominic loves the theater. TicketSmarter is committed to helping those in need by donating $1 from every transaction to various charity organizations. Head over to TicketSmarter.com to find tickets for upcoming events. TicketSmarter, not harder, on TicketSmarter.com. Time for our news and notes segments. We go to the thespian himself, Dominic Aragon. Dominic, what do you got?
Hey, Tyler. So every week on the show, we like to take a look at our top NASCAR news and notes and see what's going on around the sport. And hey, the saga there with Brad Keselowski and Roush and their penalty, the 100-point penalty assessed after the Atlanta race weekend, it's going to appeal. So RFK Racing's appeal of the L2 level penalties assessed after the Cup race at Atlanta is going to be heard on April 7th. So that's coming up next week. NASCAR officials confirmed on Monday also that 3 members of the National Motorsports Appeals Panel are scheduled to meet and consider it a week from Thursday. So, guys, it looks like this 100-point penalty, we'll see. It'll be left in the hands of those members on that appeal team.
Well, then when you see that, and then the other penalty that was handed down to Booty Barker and the 23 team, also a 4-race suspension. Was it a 100-point penalty too, Dom?
No, not with the 23 team now.
Okay, but still, 4-race suspension for that. NASCAR's not messing around, David, on these penalties they're handing out this year.
No doubt about it. And I wanted to ask y'all, Dominic, Tyler, what did Brad do? I still ain't figured out what they did. I mean, do you guys know?
All that NASCAR said was that they were assessed a penalty for, and this is exact wording, modification on a single source supplied part. And I do remember early on, before the start of the season, they said they were going to come down on teams hard for trying to mess with those or modify parts. But an exact issue I haven't heard. Have you, Tyler?
Yeah, I haven't seen exactly what that is, what's going on there. But it is noticeable that these penalties are harsher and that they're not given much wiggle room. Brad, what's your thoughts on all this, man?
From what I understand, it's tough because that rule that you just stated, like modifying a single source part, there's kind of a working gray area that's not being addressed. I feel like when you have those single support or single supplier parts, sometimes they may not work for whatever reason on your build, or there's a way that like something works more efficiently it's not necessarily a competition advantage, but it's just like a streamlining issue, especially since teams, it's very difficult to get parts right now. That I feel like, I don't know exactly if that's what RFK's case is, but I've seen it in a lot of different situations where, there's not a part for this, so people have to fix something up for it to work. And sometimes it shows up to the track and it's not compliant, and, the teams didn't know it was illegal. So there's that. I mean, obviously they could have maybe tried to have a competition advantage. We don't know that, but I think the other side of that is, I believe Darian Grubb from Trackhouse had spoken about it, where what sometimes things that they do, they're trying to be extra conservative to make sure they stay in the rules because they're not even sure what is a rule break at this point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's kind of interesting, when you buy an OEM part, or, obviously we're buying parts and pieces for this next gen car. And, you buy a part that's, licensed and certified to be bought for the racing teams to use on the race car. They might need some modifications to them to make them work better, be a little bit more efficient. And I guess, NASCAR's ruling, like Dominic was saying, you cannot alter or, readjust something, or, make something a little bit better, more efficient, even if it wasn't a competition advantage. You know what I mean? Just, you can't touch it. You can't, you can't massage on it. And it's interesting to hear all our perspective on it, but we don't even know what it is and what part it is. Yeah. I'm curious to know, what parts and pieces was it? And if it was or wasn't whatever the altercation or the what they were modifying to the part was to give them a performance enhancement, you know what I mean, to make them faster or enhance something or not. So it's kind of interesting that nobody really knows what part was being modified, you know what I mean? So I think it's interesting, and I think the appeals process, I think they will probably take that in consideration. Was this part, Pete, was it a safety issue that the racing team thought that they could they needed to do a little bit of work on it or change to make it more safer, or, it's just interesting for the public not knowing what they altered, you know what I mean? What part,
I wonder if more will come out, Tyler, when we hear about the appeal process next Thursday on April 7th, if more information will be distributed, or maybe we won't, but I feel like we'll have a better eye and a better understanding by then.
I hope so. I believe NASCAR owes it to us to explain more exactly in detail and to the teams to get away from this confusion and such, to learn more about these cars as far as I'm concerned. Dominic, what else we got?
Yeah, so for the first time entering a Cup race in 2022, there's no odds-on favorite for a winner in Sunday's race. So according to oddschecker.com, Kyle Larson and Chase Elliott are both entered as co-favorites to win at the Richmond Short Track. Kyle Larson is a past winner at Richmond, having won there in the September 2017 race, while he's also won an Xfinity Series there too. Chase Elliott is a one-time winner in the Xfinity Series, with his win coming in 2015. But you look at the top 5 odds for the race on Sunday, guys. You have Kyle Larson and Chase Elliott with an implied chance of a 10% chance of winning. Logano, Kyle Busch, and Martin Truex there followed up 3rd, 4th, and 5th, respectively.
I find it interesting that Chase is a co-favorite, considering, Dom, we haven't seen him in victory lane nearly as much lately. And although he was in the championship 4 last year, he only won 2 races. One of those, a rain-shortened race at COTA. And he's the only Hendrick driver that hasn't won in 2022. But the guys out in the desert still high on Chase Elliott to break through sooner rather than later here.
100%. Well, what's even weird, Tyler, there's no playoff points that the 9 team has won. But he has a 13-point lead over Ryan Blaney as the points leader 6 races into the season. And I believe it was the 2nd or 3rd race in Chase Elliott had scored the most stage points among the competition. So Chase is putting together a quiet but consistent season. But yeah, you get to find victory lane in that 9 car.
You know what else I find interesting that nobody mentioned? Ross Chastain. And anytime there's momentum, I mean, you better look out. I wouldn't be surprised to see that number 1 car back in victory lane again, man, after having just a heck of a weekend and winning your first Cup race. Man, you know what momentum does for a racing team. Look out, guys. You know what I mean? So I feel like that we'll see Daniel Suarez and Ross Chastain up there competing for a win again in Richmond this coming weekend.
Well, and we're seeing these first-time winners, right? 3 of the first 5 winners have been first-time winners, and guys that have been running good but having their breakthrough moment, like Ross and like Chase Briscoe and others. Tyler Reddick's day is going to come here eventually, right?
Oh, I
mean, I would think that Tyler Reddick has, he's a good racer, on these type of tracks and such. I would think, Brad, that Tyler Reddick, if he's got a good shot to get his first career win, this is as good as ever here at Richmond.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, Reddick or Briscoe. I mean, considering the show that they put on at Phoenix and them not being near on the high of the odds, I was like, man, they are wrong. Like, I would honestly give Briscoe it, and the fact that, I mean, Phoenix, I mean, you can consider it like short track package. That, how good they did over there. And even at COTA, if you look at the lap averages, I mean, Chase Briscoe put down the fastest lap at COTA and didn't win because of a cut tire. So, to kind of discount that 14 team, I think they have a lot of momentum as well. So, and I feel like it's going to be the Briscoe and Reddick show at Richmond. If not, we might see Ross Chastain pop in there as well. I mean, he's also fast at Phoenix as well.
Yeah, should be a really fun race this weekend there at Richmond. And David, you'll be out there in the 08 car. You guys are locked in the field. Got that good news this week about the owner points, so that's exciting. And it should be a fun show this weekend at Richmond. Before we get out of here, we'll get to our Ask David segment in a moment. But before we do, let's go racing with David Starr, presented by TicketSmarter. TicketSmarter came aboard as the primary sponsor this year on the 08 Ford Mustang, driven by this guy. And we want to tell you a little bit more about what they do. TicketSmarter is a national ticket resale marketplace with tickets to over 125,000 live events, including NASCAR and other forms of motorsports. Fans can get tickets to every NASCAR Cup, Xfinity, and Camping World Truck Series race throughout the season. For more information, visit TicketSmarter.com. That's TicketSmarter.com. All right, here is our questions in the inbox this week. You can reach out to us by email, davidstarpodcast@gmail.com. Also on Facebook, facebook.com/davidstarpodcast, and by Twitter @Star Podcast is where you can find us there. First question, and both these questions for both of you guys. Let's start out with David here. David, would you like to see more road courses on the schedule? This question, I forgot to mention almost. This is from Jose. Jose wants to know more road courses. I believe we have 5 now, 5 or 6. You want to see more? You like where we're at?
Well, I like where we're at. You know what I mean? For years, racing all the years I raced in the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series, I think the first 2 years I started my career, we had 3 or 4 road courses, and then all of a sudden NASCAR took them away from us. We didn't have any. And now I think what'd you say, Tyler, 5?
Let's go through them. On the Cup schedule, it's Coda, Sonoma, Watkins Glen, the Indy Road Course, Charlotte. Am I miss? Is that it?
Road America.
Road America. 6.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love the NASCAR and the different types of racetrack we race on week in and week out, but I think that's probably plenty for me. You know what I mean? It was a phenomenal. I think it was probably the best race.
That's 4 times as many road course races as what the schedule had 5 years ago.
Yeah, so I'm good with where we're at on the road courses, but man, the race Sunday, the race Saturday, and the Friday's truck race were phenomenal. You know what I mean? The endings were amazing. You know, the fans were standing up, screaming and hollering. It was exciting. But for me personally, I would say I think that's a great number.
Brad, you love the road courses. You want to see more? You think 6 is a good number here?
For the Cup Series, I think that's about right. I mean, if anything, it might be a little too much, because I think, obviously, I feel like more short tracks is always the move. You know, I mean, this sport is definitely built up on short tracks, and I think, as far as the Cup schedule is concerned, if we're going to come up with a champion and a championship team, seeing them be able to dominate on all types of tracks on an even basis is really cool. Like, if you had 5 short tracks, 5 road courses, 5 intermediates, and then whatever, 2 super speedways, or I guess you can call Atlanta super speedway now, so 3. I think that's pretty stout for a championship. That makes a diverse championship. You can't really say that about many motorsports, where you're going to go to different types of tracks that are that drastically different, and be able to put together a championship season. So I think the amount of road courses we have right now is about 5.
Dom, I only have one more request. I like where we're at road courses. I think we're close to the right number, but add me a street race and then I'll be good.
That's right. You're advocating hard for that Chicago street race next year if that happens, aren't you?
Yeah, Chicago, Nashville. Those would be probably my 2 places to come to mind.
Okay. Yeah, I would say 6 is probably a good number. Maybe 1
or
more.
Even Long Beach.
Even Long Beach, right? But I mean, 'cause I think for the longest time we heard fans say there's only 2 road courses on the schedule. And the Roval got added in 2018. There was a lot of positive reception with that. And yeah, I think we're at a good number now. But hey, we'll see if they add some more.
The only road course we've been to recently that I'm not a fan of, the racing hasn't been good, but it's not on the schedule, is the Daytona road course. It just hasn't been.
That was a funny one.
I forgot about that one. Yes, we raced there twice. Yes.
Hey, Dominic, I'm going to have to, I love you guys, but I'm going to have to disagree with Tyler. I don't feel like that our race cars, the type of stock cars we race, are made for racing on a street course in a city somewhere, But hey, man, after seeing what NASCAR did at the LA Coliseum was pretty awesome. It wouldn't surprise me. Nothing surprises me anymore. It wouldn't surprise me to see a NASCAR race in a major city somewhere across America next year.
And you'll be in it. But both of you guys will.
Absolutely.
We'll see. Next question in the inbox. This one comes from Miguel. Miguel wants to know, David, what did you make of what happened between Will Smith and Chris Rock?
Wow, man. Well, hey, man, like everybody, I'm a big Will Smith fan. I love his movies, and man, he's just a great actor. And Man, that's a tough one to answer. I mean, that's there's all kinds of emotions. You appreciate him protecting his family, his loved ones, his wife. It was on national television during the Oscars. You know what I mean? I'm like, man, golly, man, that's a tough one. I can't really say what I want to say. I was a little embarrassed for him, embarrassed for their industry. Chris, if I'd have been the guy getting punched, man, it'd have been a lot uglier than it turned out. And, I don't know, man. It's just, it's really the truth of the matter is for me, it was just kind of sad to see professional, actors that we all love and watch on TV to have that happen live and the world's watching. To me, that's just, I don't know. That's doesn't match what we think. I mean, we just think all of them are class acts and TV movie stars, and I don't know. I think it put a dark cloud over the whole Oscars. You know what I mean? And all the good things and the people that won and everything about it. It just put a black cloud over all of it. And I don't know. For me, it was just kind of sad. The whole deal was sad.
What'd you think, Brad?
It's tough. That's a tough one because, imagine what you would have done if you were in Will's situation. And just thinking about that is like, I couldn't give you a concise answer.
Yeah.
And, definitely there's like a level of professionalism that needs to be held, like, especially in a thing like that. I mean, think about it in any other, something that's on national TV, you're held to a standard of professionalism. But that's a situation where, man, it's tough. Like, maybe Will's just had it. And, sometimes I guess you can give him props that, he was open enough to just say, I've had it. Or for Chris Rock getting slapped and not saying something or doing something back on TV. There's a lot of layers to that. And I don't quite know all of the layers. So it's hard for me to comment like David. So I think I'll just leave it at, wow. Yeah.
Chris Rock, he didn't skip a beat, did he, man? That guy was professional all the way. I mean, he didn't skip a beat. He just kept on entertaining and doing what he does. And you got to respect, the way he handled that and being on national television. I really have a lot of respect for him, even more than I did. And but man, what a crazy situation. They're asking us, Brad, I want to hear what Dominic and Tyler's thoughts are.
No, I'll say this. I definitely the slap heard around the world. I had a lot of my students ask me what I thought about that today too. I was like, yeah, that's a tough one. I'm with Brad. I'm with David. There's so much to unpack with it, and I don't know. There's just so much we don't know.
If nobody wants to give a damn opinion around here, then I will. I guess I'll say. Like, look, Will Smith was out of line. I mean, you don't ever, advocate for violence, and taking the first punch. We were all taught growing up that, you don't hit first, but if somebody hits you, you better punch them back. My mom always told me I'd be in more trouble if I didn't defend myself than if I just took a punch. So I would say that Chris Rock handled himself well, and it was in poor taste, the joke. Yeah, it was, but it didn't need it. It escalated too far. That should have been handled behind the scenes. So that's how I look at it.
And that's what they hired him for, Tyler. What
Yes.
they hired Chris? What's his job?
To make jokes, to be a comedian.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
So absolutely.
All right, last question. This one's for Brad. It comes from Benny. Benny wants to know, Brad, why is your social media game on fire?
Oh man, that's an embarrassing question.
You do have pretty good social media game though, Brad, to be fair.
I personally speaking, I can't even call it a game. Like, it's just me. Like, social media, like, I grew up on damn social media. Like, I was on I shouldn't have been, but I was on Facebook since I was like 13. So I like social media in the sense that I use it now because I guess I'm kind of trying to be like how I wish somebody could have been. Like, being in the NASCAR garage and getting to experience a lot of the stuff that I get to experience, it's cool to kind of give a little behind the scenes look at stuff. And I like to make fun of it because, although NASCAR seems on the outside like this big old glamorous thing, I mean, it's just fun because it's still racing. Like, you go there and I look at somebody's side skirts and I'm like, man, that's pretty cool. Like, and I'll talk about it, or, we're in the garage and there's so many cool personalities you get to talk about and talk to. So I try to make social media like fun and lighthearted and just get to see a lot of different stuff. And it's kind of me projecting all the stuff that I don't really talk about all the time.
David here, he acts like he doesn't know a thing about social media, but Dominic, you and I can attest. If we look at David looking over his phone, what's he doing?
Oh, he's surfing through Twitter or looking at his Facebook feed. Yeah, David knows how to use social media.
Yeah, I can't.
We got him on Snapchat.
I can't say I'm too engaged in it, but I know how to look at it and watch it and all that kind of stuff, But anyway.
Yeah, David's gotten pretty good at Snapchat. I will say all we got to get him to do now is to learn how to send streaks.
Yes.
Don't do it, David. Whatever they say, don't do
man. You don't have to worry about that. I don't know much about it. You know what I mean? So yeah.
All right, guys. Before we go, Brad, tell us about what's going on with you over these next few days, man. You're going to be out in Richmond this weekend.
So because of the deal with Rayum's, I had to be an employee essentially. So I had to take 2 weeks off work. And it's not doing pretty good for my finances. So I am working at BMW tomorrow, up and early at 5 o'clock in the morning to drive to South Carolina, be there at 7 o'clock. Working there tomorrow, the next day, working until Friday. And then hopefully I'm trying to pick up a couple days on the weekend because trucks are off. So trying to work a little bit more and watch the Xfinity race for sure. Get to watch Rajah for his debut. You had to watch David wheel that thing. I want to see what that 08 thing has, man. Not making those races. I was like, man, I know it's tough to qualify in, but the race is a different monster. So I kind of want to see what that 08 team has got. I love those guys at Greenlight Racing. So I'm going to be watching.
David, you don't have to worry about getting in the show. You're in now. What's different for you going into this weekend? A little more relaxed?
Man, it's, I don't know if you call it relaxed. It's just, more of focused on that. You only get 20 minutes of practice, more focusing on getting your race car to rotate in the center and having some great forward bite there at Richmond. If you can get in the corner good and your race car rotates, means it turns good in the center and you got good drive off, then you're going to have a great race, But I can assure you, if your race car doesn't turn good in the center, and you have no forward bite off the corners there at Richmond, just because of the way you come off turn 4 there and you have no forward bite, man, it makes it for a long race. And I've been talking to Jason Miller, my crew chief, a lot. We've had some great runs there over the years, and it's fun to be able to just focus a little bit more on our race setup, being good 30 laps into a run than it is worrying about just that one lap to make sure you're in the race, So just glad to have had the opportunity to go back to the racetrack this week, getting our number 08 TicketSmarter Ford Mustang. Looking forward to it, and I'm sure it's going to be a great race and can't wait for the race Sunday afternoon, man. That Cup race is going to be phenomenal, judging from what we saw this past weekend in Coda.
Dominic, what's happening with you?
Yeah, I'll be staying here in New Mexico this week and no racetrack for a while. But yeah, I'll be watching from afar like you, Brad, and seeing how that 08 car is going to handle in the race. And yeah, it's going to be awesome to see what happens this weekend. The Cup race, I think, won't disappoint either. And we're not going to have anybody at the track for us this weekend. But yeah, we'll look forward to being back soon. We'll cover from afar. How about you, Tyler?
I am going to be rooting hard on my Kansas Jayhawks. They're in the Final Four this weekend. And big game against Villanova. And a lot of our friends from TicketSmarter, just like me, went to Kansas. So, we'll be taking on some bandwagon Kansas fans and the SS Greenlight team, I'm sure, over these next couple of days. But that'll be fun. And just enjoying some time and such. And, watch the races, of course, this weekend. And should be good. But we got to run. We got to put the checkered flag out in this episode. Before we go, a reminder, as always, to subscribe to Let's Go Racing with David Starr. New episodes out each and every Wednesday, Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and on YouTube. Make sure to leave us a 5-star review, or don't leave us one at all. Hit the like button if you enjoyed the show. If you didn't enjoy the show, we'll hit the like button anyway. And you can follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/David Starr Podcast, Twitter @Starr Podcast, and send us an email, davidstarrpodcast@gmail.com. For Dominic Aragon, David Starr, and myself, Tyler Jones, we want to thank Brad for joining us as well, and make sure to give him a follow and check out his great work. We'll certainly be rooting him on in his very bright future. I am Tyler Jones saying so long. We'll see you here next week on another edition of Let's Go Racing.